Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here and joining us today. We have with us Christi Keating, who is our chief marketing officer, and today we're going to be talking about everyone's remote working, and we are all getting accustomed to the tools that we need for the most productivity and to stay connected and meet with the people we need to meet with. And so today we're going to be talking about Teams versus Zoom. And I will let Christi take it away.
Thanks, Jessica. Chris and Jessica will be looking at the questions too. So if you guys have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. We want this to be interactive and a way for you guys to learn about these two tools. So thanks again for joining us. As Jessica said, a lot of us are remote. That includes myself, and my dog is behind me, so please forgive me if he barks throughout this presentation. He's usually pretty good. He had a play date last night, so he's tired. So hopefully he keeps quiet for us today. Before we get started, I wanted to just get to know the audience a little bit. And so I'm launching a poll right now, and I'd like to know what you guys are currently using, if you're using anything at all. So are you currently using Teams? Do you currently use Zoom? Maybe something else like Slack or GoToMeeting. We're not going to talk about those today, but I'm just curious to see and get a pulse check on where everyone's at. So, and if you're not using anything, great. You're going to learn about two of the best tools out there today. So it looks like the majority is using Zoom, which is cool. That's what we're in today, obviously. Some use another tool, and there are some that use Teams. So thank you for participating. It looks like we got most of the votes in. So
we have one person who says they use both.
Oh, interesting.
A couple of people saying, what if we use both or more than both?
I should have made that an option because we use both. So well, thank you guys. I appreciate the participation, and hopefully you'll learn something new about one of the tools you're using, and maybe something else about the other tool to see if it might be something better for your business. So today, what you're going to learn about is we'll look at the similarities between Teams and Zoom. We'll look at the differences, of course, and a lot of this is going to be around the different communication and collaborating features. What kind of security features do they both have? And then we'll do a quick little cost comparison at the end, just so you guys can see how they compare the different plans. So with that said, the main similarities, there's a lot of similarities to start. I mean, these are both audio and video conferencing tools. You're hearing a lot about them. When the pandemic first hit back in March, the adoption of both Zoom and Teams increased astronomically, both from just, people buying it new out the gate and then just using it too. So usage went up as well. They both have the ability to instant message, chat either one-on-one or with a group, as well as create meetings, syncing up with your calendar and be able to create meetings, again, one-on-one meetings or group meetings. You can share files between both applications. They do have a little bit of different ways of, and limitations there. So we'll look at that and what that means. And then integrations, as far as integrations, there's hundreds that both natively integrate with, or you can use tools like Zapier to create those integrations that you're looking for. At the end of the day, these are both built for video and audio conferencing. They both have the ability to create breakout rooms, screen sharing, whiteboarding sessions, keyboard and mouse control sharing, all that good stuff that you should be used to in a good audio and video conferencing tool. But like anything, the devil's in the details. And so the difference here is in the details. So we'll go in and dive in, and I've got some screen shares here that we'll take a look at so you can see the differences of the tools. So we'll start by looking at the setup of each platform. We're going to start here in Zoom. As I said, we use both. We mainly use Teams. We are a Microsoft partner. But that said, we're using Zoom today because we do prefer it for webinars. And we've used it for some recording needs and things like that. But anyway, so the layout of Zoom here is when you're in the chat at the top here, I've selected chat. You can see that it has channels on the left-hand side, and you can create the channels that you'd like. So I have webinars, I have leadership and marketing. These are just examples of ones I've created. You can create a lot more. Here at the top, you can actually favorite your channel. So if there's one that you use a lot, you can go ahead and star that so that it shows up at the top. Moving on, you have this button here, which allows you to add people to that channel. Or if you're in a one-to-one chat, as you can see below webinars, I have Jessica. And if I wanted to add in someone else, I could just click that button. If I wanted to start a phone or video call with Jessica or someone in this channel, click here on this video tab, and you'll be able to start, that video call. You can see the chat here. And as I said before, you can share files with both platforms. So simply, select this file button here. You could send a screenshot. It'll prompt you to take a screenshot, and you can send it. You can, like stuff with emojis and all that good stuff. So that's how the chat works in Zoom. And if you move along to the next tab here, you'll select meetings, and that'll show you all your upcoming meetings. So again, for us, we use Teams for that, but we do use it Zoom for webinars. So you'll see here on the left-hand side, the upcoming webinars that we're hosting. So, and if you're interested in any, let us know. We'd love to have you in the future. So it's kind of a little bit bare, but it does have that capability. You can go ahead and click this button here to add a new meeting, or if you like to use the web-based portal, zoom.com, you can do it through there too. Moving along to the next column, you have contacts. Again, since we don't use it, I don't have much going on here, but this is where your contacts would reside. Mine are kept in Outlook, which integrates with Teams, so that's why everything's done there. But I do have a few company contacts. Jessica uses Zoom, and a couple other people in the company use Zoom. So I do have those contacts here, but as you see, I haven't, filtered or organized them in any sort of fashion, but you can do that. So that's a high level look at the navigation of Zoom. And now we're going to do that with Teams. So this is what Teams looks like. I personally like dark mode to protect the eyes, but it can look differently and be lighter if you prefer the kind of out of the box default look. So don't let the dark scare you if you're not a dark mode person. But the way it differs over here is we have the navigation is going to be on the left-hand panel as opposed to the top where it was with Zoom. Teams has a little bit more going on, so there's a couple more tabs, and I'll walk you through what those look like. So the activity here is going to be the most recent activity that you were kind of like if you use any social media platform, if someone tagged you in a Facebook post or sent you a message, you're going to have this a red, circled number with how many notifications you have. And these will be bold if you haven't read them yet. I've gone through them because these are over a week old, but you can click on any one of them. So Tina mentioned all staff, so it'll alert you on an individual level. Or like if I tag sales and marketing, Jessica would be notified. If I just tag Jessica, she'd also be notified. So you can come here, you can see what the chatter is, you can reply, or if it's more of an FYI, you can just move on or like it to, let the person know that you saw it. If you keep going, now we're in the chat. So just like Zoom had chat, Teams has chat. And so this will be all your most recent conversations that you've had, whether they were meetings, group conversations, or one-on-one. And so you can see in the chat here, you can look at files at the top, and you can do this in Zoom. I'll show you again when we get back into Zoom. For whatever reason, if you need to look at organization, it would show you where Tina resides, and then I report to Tina, so I'm right under her. And then activity, so activity that you're both involved in. There's a plus sign here that you can add different applications. We'll get into that a little bit later, but I wanted to let you guys know about that. So if we keep going, and then you could also go here to contacts, And so within contacts, that'll show all the different people in your organization that have teams that you can reach out to. In the top left, or top right, sorry, in Zoom, it's in the top left. In Teams, it's in the top right. You have how you can just immediately start a video or audio call. You can also just share a screen. If you don't want to actually physically get on, you know, I've had people being like, where is this? Can you just share your screen and show me? And boom, you don't even have to hop on a call. And then again, just like Zoom, you can add people right into it. And then this is a new feature. It's kind of off to the side. My screenshot's a little bad here, but it's this pop out button. And so essentially when you're in Teams, I could be chatting with Jessica, but we might want to be looking for another file. And if I do that, her screen gets really small, and then I have to go back to it. So by popping it out, it allows you to have its own window, and then you can still do your thing in Teams. And I really liked this feature. It was just released in the last few weeks, and it makes it nice to navigate a little bit more. So moving along to the next piece here is the actual Teams. So just as you saw in Zoom with channels, Teams is a little different in that it has teams, and then channels are like subsets of teams. And I personally like that because it keeps it really organized. You have different files and different communication and different feeds in each channel. So Zoom does have channels, Teams has teams, and then channels within Teams. Just in Zoom and Teams, you can control who you want to have access to those channels. So it's totally permission based. If I go and start a team and I only want Jessica in it, we can do that. You can also set permissions within your organization of who you want to be able to create teams. So if they don't want me creating teams for some reason, that control can be taken away from me. But whoever the admin is of either channel in Zoom or in Teams has the ability to add people to that. You'll see at the top here, oh, and again, with this ellipses, just like in Zoom, you can go ahead and favorite teams. So if you have, teams that you're most involved with, you can pin those to the top essentially. And additionally, you can hide teams. So if you scroll down to the bottom, this is a screenshot, so I can't, but if you continue to scroll down, there's teams I'm a part of that I just really only just need access to. I don't need to be involved with, hourly or daily. So it's nice I can go in there, but I don't need it in my face every day. So to keep it organized, I just have what I want showing. Again, just like chat, there's a few more things here. Each channel within team will have posts, which again, just like social media is kind of your news feed. You can see we've shared some reports with each other. We've, had conversations back and forth, and this is visible to anyone who's in the channel. And then each one also has files, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But within files, that's where Teams is the front end of SharePoint. So your files live in there. We'll show you how it looks in Zoom too. And again, this plus sign will allow you to add different apps. So if you click on that plus sign, you're going to be prompted to add a tab. And so as you see, there's a lot of Microsoft Office 365 applications right there, but it also does integrate with some other third-party applications, which they're adding to. So if there's something really important to that channel, you can add that and essentially pin it to the top, and it can live there as long as you'd like. It could be this quarter, you want it to show this, and the next quarter, you might want to remove that and show something else. It's totally customizable to what your team is looking to do. Next is the calendar function. So as you can see, this is much different than Zoom. It actually looks exactly like my Outlook calendar. You can look at it at a work week is what I'm looking at it right now. So if you see in the top right-hand corner here, work week, you can change it to full week. You can change it just to the day. You can look ahead at future weeks by using these arrows over here. The other thing is at the top right, you can click Meet Now if you want to have an impromptu meeting, or you can click a new meeting, which will prompt you just like Outlook to schedule it, add attendees, add you know, the agenda or any details in the description. So there's, you know, a lot of different things. It's basically like working right within Outlook. So if you're a Microsoft user, Teams makes it really easy because it's all connected. And then moving down the left-hand column still, this
Christi,
is where,
I'm just going to interrupt you for 1 sec. The calendar, one of my favorite aspects of this calendar is if there's a Teams meeting in here, it's just a seamless integration into that meeting. So you don't have to pop up any new windows. It's a really smooth experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if I was able to hover over these, but because it's a screenshot, I can't, it would say join if it was a Teams meeting, which most of our meetings are, but sometimes externally they're Zoom, or like if someone else outside the organization sends us a Zoom link, or, you know, maybe it's a direct call that you're expecting. So, and Zoom has similar features. You know, if you're in the Zoom application, you can start it right there. So speed dial, these are just people who I talk to on a regular basis. This is totally customizable. You can add different groups. So I have a sales group. I have my other contacts. You can look at contact history, your voicemails. You can make a call right from here at the bottom. So kind of just like with your phone, it's very similar. Moving down the column, we have files, and then right here, you'll see I'm selected on recent files. You can look at files that you've downloaded. You can look at OneDrive. Both Zoom and Teams have amazing search functionality for this. I tested it on both. Even if I'm looking for, say, this important technology dates full file. And I didn't know the name of the file, but I knew that it talked about Skype sunsetting. And I wanted to just find that file. So if I type in Skype sunsetting in Zoom or Teams, it knows to look at the contents of the actual file itself and will pull this information up, which I think is incredible. So if you're like, oh, I can't remember the name of the file, but I know it talks about this topic, you can type about that topic and it'll pull it up. So it's really cool. And then lastly, on the left-hand side, the ellipses, again, you can plug in other applications. So, you know, some of these are native to Office 365, but if you use both, you can integrate Zoom here. You can integrate a couple different applications that you are using more regularly. So it makes it as an easy way just to hop into those sorts of things. So I want to get into sharing files now. And so in Zoom, you can send your files via chat, as you see here. You can also, at the top, look at, if you go on the left-hand side to all files, there's both my files and all files. As you can see, I've selected here. So all files will be all files that have been shared with you or that you've shared. And then my files will just be ones that you've uploaded. Again, up here in the top left-hand bar, there's a search functionality, just like there was in Teams. And you can type in whatever you want and, you know, you can find them really easily. One of the differences here is you can't just upload files like you can in Teams, but when you share them via chat, you're uploading them. So just a little difference there. So they can both be used for storage, but it's just a little bit of a different way that you go about getting them there. So I would say Zoom is, you know, built more for the one-time sharing or, you know, chatting back and forth and collaborating, whereas Teams is really a file storage place for you. That said, you can click on a file within Teams. So say I wanted to click on this t-shirt orders file. I can open that up. I can, as long as I don't save a copy or download it, I can open that up, you know, edit the file, and when I click X, it'll update the file that's in Zoom. And Teams does the same thing. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I think that's just cool, like, because it's cloud-based, right? So all your edits are going to show up there. So it's good to keep that in mind for two reasons. If you're collaborating with someone who's not in the same room as you, but you need to work on this file, you can do so. That's great. But in some cases, sometimes you have templates that you don't want edited. And so whether you're using Zoom or Teams, you want to make sure you download that and save a copy before you go and edit that file. So it's just something to think about when you're, using this feature. I love it. It auto saves. That's great, but sometimes you don't want to overwrite things. So hopping back into Teams, looking at the files there. So again, any channel that you're in are going to have automatically this files section here at the top. As you can see, we have a ton of different folders here, all that have different files in them. You can go down the folder structure to find something. If you click on this name, you can sort the files from A to Z, or you can click over here like, most recently modified, or you can see who it was modified by. This is the marketing channel, so I own it. So most of the files and folders are edited and touched by me. So that's why you see my name a lot here. But if you looked at some of the other teams I'm in, it would be a different story. But it's cool, you can see who uploaded what and when. So if you have a question about the file, you know who to contact. The granularity isn't there on Zoom. And so that's why I prefer working in Teams when it comes to file sharing. Now, if you open a file within Zoom, it's going to open it into the native application. So if you open a Word document, it's going to open in Word. If you open an Excel file, it's going to open in Excel. In Teams, you have the option of where you want it to open. So I just opened it right in Teams. This is what that looks like. So you can work directly in Teams. As you can see on the left-hand side here, we're still in Teams. However, if you don't want to work in Teams for whatever reason, personally, I like it on the mobile app. If I'm at the airport about to board a plane, I don't have my laptop, I'm not working, but my boss really needs something really quick, I can open it and work right in Teams without having to download like the Word application on my phone. So it makes it pretty cool that way. If you do prefer working in the desktop applications, if you have the Office 365 licensing that comes with that, you can go ahead and click this button to open it in the desktop app, and that'll prompt Word to open up or whatever the file type is. Over here on the ellipses too, if you prefer working in the web browser, or if that's only what your licensing has available to you, you'll be able to click those ellipses and it'll give you the choice to open it in the web browser. You can also open it in SharePoint because again, Teams sits on SharePoint. You also can download it. So again, if you want to edit something, but you want to make a copy and not overwrite what's in Teams, make sure you're using that download, whether you're in Zoom or Teams. Just a best practice. Jessica, do you have any questions so far? I'm kind of moving quickly through this, so.
We have a question about phone calls. Somebody uses GoToMeetings and becoming accustomed to using Teams. Does Teams offer a dedicated toll-free number for conference calls for each user? So I was pretty sure we'd get to that later on.
I wasn't going to dive deep into that, but I will touch on it. It's based on your licensing. So you have to add phone numbers. You can use Teams without phone number, well, not without phone numbers, but you can use it internally. But if you want to use it externally to call numbers outside of your organization, there's different licensing types that require that. I am not super privy to them, but Jessica, if you want to take that person's name down, I mean, we have experts on our side that could easily get that question answered. So we can follow up with them.
Yeah, I know who it is. And so the answer is absolutely yes. Like Christy said, it does depend on your licensing, but it's a really easy integration. And, the simple answer is yes, it does everything that Zoom can do in that capacity.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Let me just remind everybody, because I know you mentioned there's Q&A, but just in case anyone doesn't know where it is, if you hover your mouse onto the bottom of the screen, you'll see a little Q&A button and also a little chat button. They look like two chat boxes. Just put your questions in either one of those and we'll make sure that they get answered while you're here. I just want to let everyone know. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we've gone through most of the screen sharing that I wanted to look at. So if anyone has questions about file, chat, calendaring functionality, let's get those in and look back at those. Otherwise, I'm going to jump into security. I think we planned this to be an hour just because I wanted to make sure we had Q&A, but we might end up a little quicker than that. So, but I'm sure everyone likes time back in their day. So, and if there's a question you want to ask that's more specific to your business that you're not comfortable asking in a group setting, totally cool. We're going to send the recording out to everyone. That will come from Jessica. And if you have any questions, just go ahead and reply to Jessica. And if she doesn't have the answer right away, we can talk to our engineers and get the answer for you. So
we did have a couple of questions come in now.
Okay.
One person, I'm not sure we can answer this right at the moment, but it's a great question, and maybe we can put a screenshot or write a blog about it. How does Zoom look if you add it to Teams?
Oh, that's a good question. I can send them a screenshot after this because
Perfect.
I'm not in it right now. I don't want to get away from the presentation, but that's a great question. We've just tested it out. We don't actually use it because we just use Teams for everything. But it's really cool because you can create a Zoom meeting right out of Teams. It's kind of redundant in my opinion, but it's just, I think, a personal preference on what you want to use. Like maybe you like all the other features of Teams, but you like the way the Zoom meeting is better. I know some people have talked about on Zoom, I forget how many people you can see at once, but you can see almost everyone, I think, at once on the screen. Zoom, it was just a 2x2 grid pre-pandemic. They've made it 3x3 now, so you can see 9, and soon it will be up to, I think, 42 or 44 people on the screen. Some people have gotten that already. We haven't had a meeting yet where we've had that many people, so I don't know if we have it, but what's awesome, guys, is I don't know if Zoom does this, but Teams does. There's Microsoft Forums, and if there's like a feature that you wish that Teams had, you can just type in, Teams feature, whatever it is, like forum, and then it'll take you to the Microsoft Forum. And oftentimes, Microsoft developers and reps will comment and be like, hey, this is in beta. We expect to launch it July 2020. So then you can be like, oh, yes, it's coming. Or this is in beta. We don't have an estimate yet. And you're like, oh, well, maybe we want to use something else until Teams is ready for supporting our business needs. And, Zoom probably has something too. A lot of these software companies these days have forums, which is so great for the end users because you can collaborate with others to see, okay, well, it doesn't have this now. What's a workaround, right? So just a little tip if you guys are looking for information there, it's a great way to do it. Do we have any more questions, Jessica?
Yeah, a follow-up to that, we're having several come in now. A follow-up to that is, excuse me, when you do the Zoom Teams integration, so right now, for the sake of our conversation, I think we should talk about, hey, you're using Teams and you just integrated Zoom. The question is, do you get the full functionality? And I'm sure that person wants to know the other way around. If you're using Zoom and you integrate Teams, and I don't know.
Yeah, again, I think it just goes back to your licensing. If you integrate Zoom with Teams and Outlook, like when I pull up a calendar meeting in Outlook, I have a button that says new Teams meeting. I also have a button that says new Skype meeting because we were using Skype for meetings prior to utilizing Zoom. Skype's going away next summer. There's completely sunsetting Skype. So everyone is, moving to Teams. And then there's also a start a Zoom meeting or add a Zoom detailed meeting button. And so any one of those you click on and then it populates that information from that software. And then if you do it through Teams, you can have it show the Teams information dial in, or you can click Zoom to have the Zoom information. So again, I think it's just a personal preference on what tool you actually want to use to host the meeting, but you can still schedule it through Teams. I hope that makes sense. It's kind of a little complicated because there's so many meeting features, but essentially, yes, you would get, well, you would get all the meeting functions out of it. You wouldn't get it wouldn't be like your Zoom chat in Teams, if that makes sense.
I actually have a question that kind of segues into this on Zoom, because on Teams, we get so many layers. You're about to go into the security layer. We get so many layers of functionality, especially within an organization. right? So it's not just a chat box. This is like a really well-organized back-end system
Mm-hmm.
with permissions and actual, parts of the organization. Do you know if the same thing is in Teams? I'm getting it all mixed up now. Zoom.
They're starting to.
Okay.
So I think Zoom and some of these other platforms are realizing the power of Teams. They both at a high level are great audio and video conferencing tools. I love Zoom for webinars. Here we are on Zoom delivering this to you guys. I think it's just a more seamless process. That said, Teams is working on building the webinar, uh, functions in Teams. So Zoom is adding more features to compete with Teams as far as like a collaboration hub. They still don't have as much capabilities in that, but they are getting there. And we'll get into it with security in a minute, but you heard about like the Zoom bombing when COVID first hit, and people were just like chat roulette, just joining into random meetings with God knows what. And we never had that issue with Teams because the security is so baked in at every Microsoft level. So jumping ahead, but my point is Zoom is starting to add a lot more features to compete. And, it's just a matter of what you want to use with your business. I think if you're a Microsoft business, if you use Outlook and Word and PowerPoint and all that other good stuff from Office 365 suite, I think it just makes totally more sense to use Teams. But if you're maybe a Google company using the G Suite, then it might make sense for you to use Zoom. It really depends, because we'll get into the pricing here soon too, and the pricing is pretty comparable. And so for me personally, I say go with Teams because you get so much more for the pricing. But if you just need something simple, then both can be simple, but then go with Zoom. It's totally a personal preference and what your business needs. So I'm hoping that some of what I'm showing you today sheds some light on some of those business questions you're asking of what do I need? And if you do need all this file collaboration, then let's talk about Teams. But if you simply need a chat and you're not already using Office 365, then maybe Zoom's the right answer for you. So
Yeah.
I think we had a few more questions come in. You want to hit those?
We did. One more. Do you know when cut paste will be improved in Teams?
Cut paste. I'm
I'm
not
not
quite sure what they mean.
Yeah. John, maybe you can elaborate on that, please. Let us know a little bit more what part you're applying that question to.
Yeah, I use copy and paste, no problem. So I don't know if there's a specific
I have a feeling he might mean files, but we'll see what he means.
Okay.
And then we have a comment. The Teams toolbar is annoying when you are in a conference call because it will auto hide, but most times it sits over the presentation material and can't see parts of the deck. So
can you reread that? Maybe I can pull it up.
The Teams toolbar, when you're in a conference call, will auto hide. Sometimes it says.
Okay.
Maybe they meant Zoom, but most of the times it sits over the presentation material and we can't see that part of the deck. So it's like
Oh, I know what they're talking about. So that is just a matter of you hovering your mouse or not. And so I've been there. I'm like, why won't this go away? I can't read the presentation. But if you are just patient and don't touch your mouse or keyboard, it'll eventually go away. It takes some time, which is kind of frustrating. But if you just kind of leave it alone for a little bit, it will go away. So I wish that you could click like hide and just be done with it, or like click so it shows up, but it's just the way it is. But if you just leave it alone, it'll go away.
I've totally experienced that too. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, it took me a minute to register, and I was like, oh yes, that's definitely something that's can be a little annoying.
And then just someone asking when will we be able to review this meeting recording. We are recording this meeting right now, so when we're done, probably later today or by tomorrow, we'll send you
at the latest tomorrow morning you'll get this, but probably this afternoon I'll have it downloaded and in an email. It'll come from Jessica, So keep an eye out for her name. But you guys will be able to review this. You can ask questions again if there was something you didn't want to ask in a group setting, and feel free to share this recording with your teammates. So this is not, you know, any sensitive data that we can't share. You know, we have some conversations from our Teams chat, but I tried to pick ones that were kind of just lighthearted in nature and didn't have any business information. So you can share this with your team when you're done too, if they weren't able to make it live. Is that all the questions before I dive into security?
That's it for now.
Okay, cool. So as I said before, Zoom had a lot of security issues at the beginning of the year when the adoption just increased tremendously. I think they just weren't ready for that. I mean, quite frankly, who was ready for a pandemic? But so they have since added a lot of security features. So kudos to Zoom for you know, responding to their customer needs and realizing that there was an issue. I think they have like a full security team now. So this is a lot of bullets. I won't go through all of them, but you know, you can secure a meeting room now. A lot of Zoom meeting rooms will have passwords now. You can have watermarks on your screen sharing. So if you don't want people like screenshotting what you're sharing, you can lock meetings. You can, again, password protect meetings. There's chat encryption and different features just automatically built in. And then you can, you know, both Zoom and Teams have requiring a host to be present for before a meeting starts, or you know, if there's people outside of your organization, you have to admit them. So both Teams and Zoom have that feature. So if you're like, I don't recognize this phone number or this person, I'm not going to admit them in, because what chaos might ensue if I do. So you can enable and disable participants to record or not. You can do that both in Zoom and Teams. So there's a lot of different like layers of it as far as like what you can do to protect your meetings. So Zoom has added a lot of new features, and rightfully so, because they're experiencing a lot of issues. Oh, slide's not going. There we go. Okay, so now with Teams, as you can see, the list is much longer. The reason being is Microsoft just bakes in security to every single part of its suite. There's nothing that you would buy from Microsoft that wouldn't have security baked into it. And the cool thing about this is with Teams, like if you have a file that you're opening in Teams and then you're going to share it via Outlook, or you're going to put it into SharePoint, whatever like security you have, that it's going to live across all applications because it's all Microsoft. So it's going to just be seamless across the board and making sure that you're protected. So as you can see in this list, you know, having recording consent, recording capabilities to say who can and can't record, who can join meetings, as I said, with Zoom, channel moderation and controls. I don't know that Zoom's there yet. And then a lot of these, like the data loss prevention, the advanced threat protection, information barriers, retention policies, a lot of these are just based on the licensing you have, and we'll see that in the next slides with the different plans and costs associated with those plans. But again, like the apps management, data management, this lives across more than just Teams. So it's important to think about, if you're a Microsoft business and security is important to you, security should be important to all of us, especially we're in a vulnerable state working remote. There's just a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world right now, and malicious attacks have increased like 350% since COVID hit and we've all gone remote. So we want to make sure that we have these things in place to protect us, and Microsoft does that across the board. So there's, just like Zoom, there's encryption across and secure guest access, external access, making sure like we know who's coming in, as I said, endpoint management, making sure that your devices and applications that your remote employees are accessing are protected. So again, just an additional feature that Teams has. So if you're in a highly regulated industry, I think Teams is the way to go. You know, finance, healthcare, biotech, those types of companies, government, things that are regulated and need that extra layer of protection, I think Teams is the way to go. But you know, Zoom is starting to add it more, so I'll be curious to continue to monitor that and see what kind of stuff they continue to add. Before I jump into cost, do we have any questions about security? I don't know how well I can answer a lot of these because some of them are above my technical expertise, but again, we have the resources to get you the data that you're looking for, if not today.
Right now, nothing's coming in,
Okay.
but yeah.
Okay. So then I'll go ahead and jump into cost. So with Zoom, these are the different plans and pricing accordingly. So, you know, if you get support at every level, which is great. So if you have an issue and you need support, you can submit a ticket. That said, I submitted a ticket in late March or early April, and I just got a response like 2 weeks ago. So luckily it wasn't a huge pressing issue. I would have, you know, been a little bit more vocal if it had been, but it wasn't a big deal. So I let it go, and it didn't, you know, ruin anything on our end. And that's probably getting better now, but just something to note. Security and compliance is baked in at every level. Again, it doesn't compare to what Teams does, but it does have features available. There's no productivity apps with Zoom. Obviously, if you want Word and Excel and those things, those are separate costs from Microsoft. But because Teams is a Microsoft app, it includes the productivity apps with the licensing that you get too. You have meetings and calling at every plan. You'll notice that these are bolded, and that's because the free meetings, the free version, you only can have 40 minutes. So you can restart it, but it's just not a fluid process. So you have more unlimited, you could have a meeting for, I think, 24 hours once you upgrade to the $14.99 plan. And then Zoom has a lot of additional prices for different things. Like they have $10 a month per user for Zoom Phone. They have Zoom Rooms, the webinar. So what we use, it's $40 a month per host, and that gets you up to 100 attendees. You can add more on, and if you want to add more storage, just like Microsoft, you can add more storage for additional costs. So totally up to you on what you're looking for. So that's a high level of what it looks like. I'm not a Zoom expert. I don't sell Zoom, so I don't know exactly some of the details here, but just to give you a high level of what it costs.
Yeah, someone did point out that they do have all the same boxes checked, obviously, with the bold X's. Is it $19.99 that's a little bit more bold, right? So there's a little bit more there.
Yeah, so the free isn't bold because it's, if I schedule a meeting on Zoom with Jessica, and if I use Zoom with my friends who are on the East Coast to stay in touch, and we'll have a Zoom meeting, some of our high school friends, but at 40 minutes we get kicked off, and we can jump right back on if we're having a good time and, you know, catching up. But because we don't pay for it, we get kicked off. Whereas with the $14.99 and $19.99 plan, you can have meetings that are 24 hours long. And so there's just a little bit more features and functionality. So each level has it, but it's bolded because there's less limitations there.
Yeah, I think to answer this person's question, Lad, between the $14.99 and the $19.99, other than that, they look like they have all the similar boxes checked. So that might be beyond our
if you go to zoom.com/pricing, you can click the plus button and it'll show you. It would have been a whole presentation for each one if we just talked about pricing and licensing features. So it's all there. It's all, you know, a lot of these software companies, both Microsoft Teams and Zoom, if you Google the name of the software and pricing, it'll come up, and this what you're looking at right now will be like pages and pages long. So you can see exactly what types of features and functions you're getting. I just wanted to give you guys baseline high level.
I think that's it for right now.
Cool. So looking at Teams, there's a couple more plans. There's a free plan, just like Zoom. There's $5 a month, and then there's $12.50 and $20 a month. The chat and collaboration you get at every level. And same with meetings and calling. Again, there will be like meetings and callings. The reason the 1250 and above are bolded is because in the free version, like you don't get to record and you don't have live events. But if you get the higher up licensing, you can host live events like webinars, or, you know, a lot of people are moving conferences to live virtual events, so you could do that. So again, that's why I bold some and don't bold the others. You get the productivity apps at every level, but again, bolded 1250 and above because you get the desktop applications, so you can physically open the Word document in Word, versus the $5 a month and free versions. Like you can either only open it in Teams or in a web version, web-based version. There's security and compliance at every level, but at the top level, there's just a lot more features. So again, those are more for like the really highly regulated industries, or maybe someone who's been compromised before and just really wants to take that extra step of protecting themselves. Administration, as far as like the IT admin of setting policies and things like that, that starts at the $5 and above plan. You don't have as much control on some of the policies that you want to set up. It's just, it's kind of just out the box. This is what it is. And then you don't get support with the free version of Teams. You do get it with Zoom, but it might take a couple months to get back to you. But you will have support at the $5 and above level. So hopefully that paints a picture for you guys as far as what is included with each plan, what you get, and, you know, making the best decision for your business. I would say, you know, with Zoom, it's probably easier to just set up, you know, out the box. If you're using Teams for, you know, if it's not the free version, if you're buying licensing for your company, there might be a little bit of IT admin that you need to help get it set up. Nothing crazy, but it's worth mentioning. So, you know, and then Teams is still building on the webinar stuff. So I'd say Zoom, you know, the webinar features are a little bit better right now. At the end of the day, I think Zoom is great if you're a small business, you know, 5, 10, 20 users within your company. If you're on Google, all that stuff. But Teams, as you get closer to like 25 users and above, especially that we're all going to be remote for quite some time, I think it's better to collaborate with all your apps in one place. There's no disparate systems between the integrations, and just in the entire Office 365 suite in one place. So if you have more than 25 users, if you're an Office 365 user already, I would say Teams is the way to go. If you're a smaller business, if you're using Google, or if you're just maybe looking for just a webinar platform, then Zoom might be the right answer for you. We don't resell Zoom, but we use it. So if you have questions on it, we'd be happy to answer it. Also, but we, as a Microsoft partner, we do resell Teams, and it's been something we've been doing a lot more of recently with COVID-19. So we can definitely, you know, help you out there if you are interested in migrating your organization to Teams, or if you just have questions. I love talking about this stuff. So are there any more questions for today?
We do. We have a few. And also, I was able to pull up the Zoom pricing plans, and to just give people like an idea of what the difference is between $14.99 and $19.99. It's the number of participants that you're able to have on your meetings. So $14.99 is 100, $19.99 is 300. It's the number of hosts that it covers. It is meeting duration, reporting, vanity URLs, single sign-on. So those are the kinds of things, the cloud space that you're getting with it, just to give everyone an idea of the difference. But you can absolutely go onto zoom.com/pricing and get it there. I do have a couple of other ones. What calling plans and conferencing add-ons and the version of 365 you need. So I think this person is asking, what version of 0365 do you need to add on a calling plan for Teams, and what are those specifically? To that person's anonymous. So the person asking that question, I encourage you to please reach out to me directly. Just reach me at J, my last name, so jshanan at managesolution.com. Since you're anonymous, I won't know who you are, but send me that question and I'll be happy to answer you specifically. And then I have another question coming in. I've got all the screens up. And I love this question because this is exactly what we're doing right now, right? If you want to put together an informative online session, roughly 20 to 50 people max, where people are encouraged to send in questions and even ask questions and interact with the facilitator, which do you recommend, Zoom or Microsoft Teams? The facilitator, along with the attendees, needs something simple and easy to navigate as they're not very computer savvy. Facilitator also plans to share their screen, show some full screen graphics, and share YouTube videos. Let me know if you need me to break that down.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think it really is a personal preference. Either tool would work for that. So I would just encourage you to try out the free version of Teams and see if you like it. The one thing I'll note is it depends on, with the free version of Zoom, your presentation can only be 40 minutes. There's no limitations with that with Teams. So it just depends on how long are these training sessions, a half hour, 15 minutes, or are they hours on end? If they're longer, I'd say Teams is the right answer. But if it's short and sweet, then you could probably use Zoom. I think, again, it's a personal preference of what you like as far as the end user experience.
Okay, I think that's it right now.
It looks like we had one more question come in.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, we did.
That's okay. I was able to pull it up now, that I'm not presenting. But the question is, we use Teams and GoToMeeting. What is your experience with GoToMeeting and its functionality? Is it better or worse than Zoom? So I used to use GoToMeeting at a company between 2015 and 2017. So I haven't used it in a while, but that said, I did use it regularly. I personally think Zoom has better connectivity. I felt like with GoToMeetings, there would be a lot of breaking up in, it would be a lot of breaking up, choppiness in some of the meetings, whereas Zoom was a better experience from a connectivity standpoint. I don't know what GoToMeeting has as far as security. I know that a lot of businesses have upped their security game since March, but I can't speak to GoToMeeting specifically. If you Google GoToMeeting security though, which I've done before, it has a ton of information on some of what they've done. I just can't speak to specifics right now. Yeah, and I don't know what their plans are like. So if you have experience that you want to chime in on, sure.
Just, from a user experience standpoint, sometimes it's not one specific thing that makes the user experience what it is. Sometimes it's a collection. Often it's a collection of things, especially when it comes to software. My personal experience with GoToMeeting, which has been in a business setting, is just not as smooth an experience as either Zoom or Teams. And I actually remember an office I was in using it, and they got so frustrated with it. And I kept telling them, before I knew about Teams, I said, try Zoom, because that was all I knew back then. And once they tried it, they just went, they never looked back. So neither have I.
And if you're interested in what a Teams Zoom integration looks like, respond to Jessica's email and we could do a quick video screen share on what it looks like in our instance. Again, we don't use it much, but we do have it set up. So if you have questions, we can help you get those answered.
Yep. I think, yep.
All right, well, it looks like there's no more questions and we're at the top of the hour here. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Hopefully you learned something new about the tool you're already using, or maybe gave some insight on a tool you're considering, and you can make a better, more well-informed decision based on what we've shared with you today. Jessica will get the recording out either this afternoon or by tomorrow morning, and I please encourage you to send her your questions if you have any specific questions that we didn't cover today, or you weren't comfortable with asking in a group setting. We're happy to have those one-on-one conversations and get you the information you need. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much.